When we picture the quintessential pastoral landscape, it's often populated by cattle. But this familiar term encompasses a vast and diverse group of animals. Scientifically, they belong to the subfamily Bovini, a collection of species that have shaped ecosystems and human civilizations for millennia. This group is broadly divided into domestic cattle and their formidable wild relatives, each with a unique story of adaptation and survival. The most common domestic cattle fall under the species often called taurine cattle. These animals, which originated in Eurasia, are well adapted to temperate climates. This group includes hundreds of specialized breeds, from the iconic Holstein Friesian, the world's highest production dairy animal, to the hardy Angus, prized globally for its high-quality beef. Their lack of a prominent hump and tolerance for cooler weather made them ideal for domestication across Europe and later the Americas. Their tropical counterpart is, or zebu cattle. Originating from South Asia, these animals are immediately recognizable by the fatty hump on their shoulders, large, drooping ears, and a prominent dewlap. These are not merely cosmetic features, they are brilliant evolutionary adaptations, helping to dissipate body heat and making the zebu exceptionally tolerant of high temperatures and drought. Breeds like the Brahman are therefore vital to agriculture in some of the hottest regions on Earth. Beyond the farm, the Bovini subfamily includes awe-inspiring wild species. Perhaps the most famous is the American bison, an icon of the North American prairies. A keystone species, its grazing patterns once shaped the entire grassland ecosystem. Though driven to the brink of extinction, the bison represents one of conservation's greatest success stories, a testament to the resilience of nature. The family's diversity extends across the globe. In the high plateaus of Asia, the shaggy-haired yak thrives in conditions no domestic cow could endure. In the forests of South and Southeast Asia lives the gaur, the largest and most powerful of all wild cattle. And species like the wild banteng continue to roam the tropical forests, closely related to some domestic breeds in the region. From the dairy farm to the highest mountains, this remarkable subfamily showcases evolution's power to adapt and diversify. Bovines are large, sturdy animals with stocky bodies and impressive strength. They have cloven hooves, split hooves well adapted to varied terrain. Bovines are herbivores adapted to a plant-based diet, spending long periods grazing and ruminating. Cattle have a four-compartment ruminant stomach, the rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum, specialized for fermenting plant material. Their strong jaws and complex digestive system enable efficient breakdown of fibrous plants. Domestic cattle descend from wild aurochs, their wild ancestors. Cattle were domesticated roughly 10,000 years ago. Throughout history, cattle provided labor, pulling plows and carts. Cattle have long provided milk for human societies. Their hides were used for leather and other materials. In some cultures, especially Hinduism, cattle hold religious significance. Ancient Egyptian art often depicts cattle in religious contexts. Our journey into the world of wild bovines begins on the vast grasslands of North America, home to an icon of the Wild West, the American bison. Once numbering in the tens of millions, their thunderous herds shaped the very landscape of the Great Plains. These colossal animals were driven to the brink of extinction in the late 19th century, a tragic chapter in human wildlife history. From a population of over 30 million, fewer than 1,000 remained. Yet, through one of the world's most remarkable conservation stories, the bison has endured, a symbol of resilience and wildness. Bison are true ecosystem engineers. Their grazing patterns create a mosaic of habitats, promoting biodiversity in prairie flora. By creating wallows, dust baths that pockmark the plains, they establish microhabitats that collect water, benefiting insects and amphibians. Despite their bulk, they are deceptively agile, capable of speeds up to 35 miles per hour. The prominent shoulder hump is not fat, but a mass of powerful muscles that allows them to use their head as a snowplow in winter, clearing paths to buried vegetation. Across the Atlantic, in the primeval forests of Europe lives the bison's close relative, the wisent, or European bison. Slightly taller and less heavily built than its American cousin, the wisent is a creature of the woodlands. It prefers to browse on leaves, shoots, and bark rather than graze on open plains. Its conservation story is even more dramatic. The last wild wisent was shot in 1927, rendering the species extinct in the wild. Every wisent alive today descends from just 12 individuals held in captivity, a testament to the power of dedicated breeding programs and rewilding efforts. The survival of both bison species hinges on tireless conservation work. Rangers, scientists, and private landowners manage habitats and monitor herd health. A critical part of this effort involves re-establishing ancient migration corridors and ensuring genetic diversity to prevent the negative effects of inbreeding. In North America, indigenous communities are at the forefront, leading cultural and ecological restoration efforts to bring the buffalo back to their ancestral lands, renewing a sacred millennia-old relationship. Venturing into the forests of South and Southeast Asia, we encounter the largest and most powerful of all wild cattle, the Gor. A mature male can stand over 6 feet at the shoulder and weigh well over a ton. Its formidable appearance is defined by a massive muscular ridge along its back and striking white stockings on its lower legs. Despite their size, they can be elusive, often retreating into dense jungle at the first sign of danger. Their primary predator is the tiger, and only the most experienced and powerful of these great cats will dare to hunt a full-grown Gor. Gors typically live in small herds of females and their young, led by an old, experienced cow. Males are often solitary or form bachelor groups. Mothers are fiercely protective and the calves stay close, learning the ways of the forest under the watchful eyes of the herd. However, these magnificent beasts are listed as vulnerable, threatened by habitat loss, poaching, and diseases like foot and mouth, which can be transmitted from domestic cattle grazing near their forest homes. Also found in Southeast Asia is the more slender and graceful banteng. This species exhibits striking sexual dimorphism. Bulls are typically black or dark brown with long curving horns, while the smaller cows are a beautiful reddish brown, and often have much smaller horns or none at all. The banteng has been domesticated and is known as Bali cattle, an important source of meat and draft power in the region. But its wild counterpart is endangered, facing severe threats from habitat destruction, hunting, and hybridization with domestic cattle, which dilutes its unique genetic lineage. Ascending to the roof of the world, we find the yak, a bovine perfectly sculpted for life at extreme altitudes. The wild yak, a massive and reclusive animal, is the ancestor of the smaller, more familiar domestic yak. They graze on the high, windswept plateaus of the Himalayas and Tibet, often above 15,000 feet, where few other large mammals can survive. For the people of this region, the domestic yak is not just livestock, it is the very lifeblood of their culture, providing milk, wool, meat, and transportation in a harsh and unforgiving environment. The yak's survival strategy is written in its DNA. It possesses larger lungs and a larger heart than cattle living at sea level, and its blood is rich with red blood cells, maximizing oxygen uptake in the thin mountain air. Its most visible adaptation is its incredibly dense, shaggy coat, which consists of a fine underlayer of down and a long, coarse outer layer of hair. This double coat provides such effective insulation that snow can settle on a yak's back without melting. Finally, we travel to the savannas of Africa to meet a bovine with a formidable reputation, the African buffalo. Nicknamed the Black Death, it is considered one of the most dangerous animals on the continent. This is not due to aggression but to its unpredictable nature and incredible strength. They gather in enormous herds, sometimes thousands strong, finding safety in numbers. This collective power is their greatest defense, allowing them to stand their ground and even mob formidable predators like lions. The most widespread subspecies, the Cape buffalo, is known for its immense horns, which in mature males fuse at the base to form a solid helmet-like shield known as a boss. This is an impenetrable defense against a lion's claws and teeth. But not all African buffalo are savanna dwellers. In the rainforests of Central and West Africa lives the much smaller forest buffalo, a reddish-brown subspecies perfectly adapted to navigating dense vegetation. From open savannas and woodlands to swamps and dense forests, the African buffalo is highly adaptable. Herds are known for their complex social structure and have even been observed to vote on their direction of travel through a process of collective steering. Despite their resilience, these powerful bovines face increasing pressure from habitat fragmentation, which forces them into closer contact with humans and livestock, and the persistent threats of poaching and disease. They live in herds for protection, grouping together to watch for predators and defend calves. Herds often move in coordinated groups, following leaders and maintaining cohesion as they travel. Cattle communicate through moos and calls, vocalizations that can alert and coordinate the herd. Body postures, alert, relaxed, or defensive, convey intentions and social signals without sound. Scent plays a key role. Sniffing and marking help cattle recognize and bond with others. The story of bovines in the 21st century is a tale of two extremes, starkly illustrated by the plight of their wild relatives. The single greatest threat they face is the relentless loss of their homes. Across Asia and Africa, ancient forests and grasslands are being cleared for agriculture, logging, and human settlement at an alarming rate. This habitat loss doesn't just reduce their territory, it shatters it. Vast, interconnected populations are broken into small, isolated groups, trapped in shrinking pockets of wilderness. This fragmentation is a silent killer, leading to genetic bottlenecks, increased vulnerability to disease, and a slow march toward local extinction. For species like the majestic gaur, the world's largest bovine, their ancestral ranges have been reduced to a fraction of their former glory, pushing them into ever-increasing conflict with human activities. Compounding this threat is the ever-present danger of poaching. Wild bovines are illegally hunted for their meat, horns, and hides, feeding both local bushmeat markets and the international illegal wildlife trade. On the front lines of this battle are dedicated rangers and conservation teams. Their work is arduous and often dangerous. They patrol vast, difficult terrain, dismantle snares, and confront armed poachers. Increasingly, they are aided by technology, using drones for aerial surveillance, camera traps to monitor animal movements and detect illegal activity, and GPS tracking to follow herds and anticipate threats. Their efforts are a critical defense for these vulnerable animals. Beyond the visible threats of habitat loss and poaching lies an insidious one: disease. The close proximity of domestic livestock to wild bovine habitats creates a dangerous bridge for pathogens. Diseases like foot and mouth, rinderpest, and bovine tuberculosis can spill over from cattle, spreading rapidly through wild populations that have no immunity. A single outbreak can be catastrophic, decimating herds in a matter of weeks. Wildlife veterinarians and epidemiologists work tirelessly to prevent this, implementing vaccination programs for livestock living near protected areas and monitoring the health of wild herds. Their work often involves the difficult task of immobilizing these powerful animals to collect samples and provide treatment, a crucial intervention in the fight to keep these populations healthy and resilient. While we fight to save wild bovines, their domestic cousins present a different, yet connected, environmental challenge. The sheer scale of modern commercial cattle farming has a profound impact on the planet. Globally, livestock takes up nearly 80% of agricultural land, yet produces less than 20% of the world's supply of calories. This enormous footprint is the primary driver of the very deforestation that threatens wild species. Vast tracts of vital ecosystems, most famously the Amazon rainforest, are cleared to create pasture for grazing or to grow feed crops like soy. This industry also consumes immense quantities of water, further straining resources in an already thirsty world. The environmental impact extends directly to our climate. When forests are cleared, they release billions of tons of stored carbon into the atmosphere. But the impact doesn't stop there. As ruminants, cattle produce methane through a natural digestive process called enteric fermentation. While a natural process, the sheer number of cattle, over 1.5 billion worldwide, means it has an unnatural impact. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, over 80 times more powerful at trapping heat than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. The collective emissions from livestock are a major contributor to global warming, creating a complex cycle where our food systems directly influence climate change. However, this challenge is also an opportunity for innovation. A growing movement is rethinking how we raise cattle, seeking to transform the industry from a liability into an asset for the environment. Sustainable practices like regenerative agriculture and rotational grazing are at the forefront. By carefully managing how and where cattle graze, farmers can mimic the patterns of ancient wild herds. This process stimulates plant growth, improves soil health, and can even help draw carbon out of the atmosphere and store it in the ground. Other approaches like silvopasture, integrating trees into grazing lands, further enhance biodiversity and carbon sequestration, creating healthier, more resilient farm ecosystems. Just as innovation offers hope for agriculture, dedicated conservation provides powerful examples of recovery. The story of the European bison stands as a testament to what is possible. Hunted to extinction in the wild by the early 20th century, the species survived only thanks to a few individuals in captivity. Through decades of meticulous, internationally coordinated breeding programs, their numbers were slowly rebuilt. Today, thanks to successful reintroduction projects, free-ranging herds once again roam the forests of Eastern Europe. This remarkable comeback from fewer than 50 individuals to over 9,000 proves that with commitment and collaboration, even species on the brink of annihilation can be saved. The path forward requires a dual vision, transforming our relationship with domestic bovines while redoubling our efforts to protect their wild kin. It means creating landscapes of coexistence where sustainable farms act as buffers for protected reserves, and wildlife corridors connect fragmented habitats, allowing animals to move freely. It demands a holistic approach, uniting farmers, scientists, governments, and consumers in a common goal. By embracing sustainable farming and championing conservation, we can build a future where both wild and domestic bovines not only survive, but thrive within healthier, more balanced ecosystems.